I know. Makes
missing
you wonder.
to never be seen again or never find their body. All these, but anyway, that's all I'll say.
Makes you wonder.
Where all these kids go.
Right.
For the rest of their life, to where they don't come back as adults and say, this is what happened to me. See, I get excited. But anyway, back to the Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Here we are. So we are rocking through Michelle Remembers in the 80s. People getting worse and worse.
And it really kind of focused on that whole satanic ritual abuse.
Yes. So that's when it started.
Physically abused, sexually abused. She spent her whole life basically being Satan's slut.
Yeah, I think this is the significant moment that's actually what you're describing is brought to the forefront. It's not just killing cats. It's not just, praying to the devil,
it's
not
whatever. Just like spray painting satin.
Right. This is taking it to...
Spelled satin lives under like a, freeway...
Satin lives.
Overpass.
Yeah. No, this is taking it to basically they're all powerful and they're coming for your kids.
Okay.
This is where it takes it now in the 80s. And so it rocks on like that, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there will remember instances of these types of stories and stuff as you were growing up, if you're lucky enough to be old like me.
Don't you wish that you were old like me? Okay,
sorry. Baby. That's going to be our first hit single.
It is, yeah.
On the Mountain Murders soundtrack.
My sciatic nerve. It's going to be a great hit. Okay.
No, I like it when you go to get up and you have like an injury now and you don't remember doing anything to that part of your body.
You're like, how did I injure myself in my sleep?
I lay injured.
Well, you had that knee thing a couple of weeks ago, and you were like, I don't know what I've done to my knee. Oh, you were like thinking about going to the doctor.
Yeah, it was like
maybe you tore something.
Dude, I'm telling you, it was like I'd been in a sports accident or something. I mean, it was just all twisted up, and I did not do anything.
Well, we're old. It happens.
So that's what happens. But yeah, so here we are rocking into 93, a very famous case I think most everyone listening is familiar with. Honestly, any true crime person is going to have known of this. So in 93, of course, I'm coming to Paradise Lost.
Oh, yeah.
And the West Memphis 3.
Big story.
And
great documentary.
Great documentary, and a very interesting case, and a very sad case, in my opinion, all the way around, especially with the little victims, little boys. They were done, so horribly, but this falls right in there. The cops, small town, you got this group of black t-shirt group kids are always, palling around together. People always see them going around town together,
like
this and that.
Metalhead Hesher kids.
Yeah, but those kids, everybody thinks in their head, and they probably ain't doing a damn thing,
They're just wearing like a Metallica t-shirt.
They're just wearing a Metallica. That's what happened back then. You just wear a a Metallica or a Slayer or
Black
some
Sabbath.
Iron Maiden, and people just knew you were offering up sacrifices
you probably
to
had
the
long
devil.
hair and might have been a little bit of an outcast. Probably spent a lot of time in the smoke hole, the school.
Yeah.
Wherever your high school had a smoke hole.
Oh, I do remember that actually. The courtyard, inner courtyard typically was everybody's smoke hole for every school. That's crazy, isn't it? But yeah, but not really hurting anyone. Drawing, probably being pretty creative in ways. And people
they probably were like the artsy kids, the weird theater geek kids. I mean, I was part of that group at my high school. I was definitely like one of the outcast kids and hung out with the weirdos and the freaks. Yeah,
I bounced around. I had all kinds of friends, and I definitely felt at home in a group like you're describing. Just kicking around. So not really bothering anyone and all that. So, but the cops instantly piled it on them. They got a hold of Jesse. And we were talking in our episode, Kentucky Vampire Cult episode, about if someone has a lower IQ, then the chances...
they're easy to manipulate.
They're easy targets for everybody.
Kind of
The people in the group manipulate them or try to put it all on them in the end. The cops will, if they think, especially if they think they're right, will, go to great lengths to, manipulate them as well if they can, as we've seen in that case famously. Because Jesse's confession is what really started sealing the fate for everybody.
Well, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I did make some notes to talk about with this episode.
Yeah.
So can I dive into a little bit of what I found?
Yeah, I'm done now. So I brought us up through 93, and when they fucked up those boys' lives and let the killers of those little kids go.
Well, I'm going to go back all the way to 1966.
Okay.
And that was the advent of the Church of Satan, which would definitely mark a shift in societal attitudes. Anton LaVey, of course, the founder. The first year in the age of Satan, as he called it, it was like all of a sudden this really like feared, taboo belief system had started to ingrain itself in public consciousness. Of course, it started to appeal to celebrities, rock stars, and they kind of made the movement mainstream. Like famously, Jane Mansfield had like participated in some photo opportunity. And let me just say, if you don't know much about Jane Mansfield, she was a fucking public relations, marketing, self-promoting queen.
Really?
Like, she knew how to get her name out there before she was even famous. She was doing all this shit. She was a hustler. Like, she knew what the fucking shit she was doing. I mean, she was awesome. So I have much respect for Jane. She went and did this photo shoot where she was almost like, you know, pretending to be part of this satanic ritual just for headlines.
I'm sure she got them.
Oh, she did. I mean, still today, people are like, oh, she was a Satanist and part of the Illuminati. Sammy Davis Jr. hung out with Anton LaVey and was interested in some of the tenets of the Church of Satan. But, it started to become kind of mainstream. And even though it was never like a hugely popular religion, if you will, Church of Satan, there were some counterculture folks that were kind of shifting away from the traditional stuff, being religious, those attitudes. You also have to consider during that time the civil rights movement was happening. There was the rock and roll scene just bursting. You had hippies, free love. People were protesting the war. Women's rights movement was happening. You started having more of the, like gay and lesbian, coming to the forefront, trying to get rights as well.
New Wave and all spiritualism and all that starting to come up through that time too?
Well, it kind of was during the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when people were really, we're going to expand our minds, started practicing more like New Agey type of stuff.
Get a guru.
You had the Beatles going to ashrams and like,
yeah,
doing yoga on a mountaintop and, all that weird shit that we don't like to do. So it was all going on at that time. And so the Church of Satan was kind of a reflection of society rejecting those traditional values. Well, a portion of society anyway. And from what I understand and what I know and what I've studied and people I know that are involved with the idea of Satan, Satanism, being either the Church of Satan or the Satanic Temple, it is a lot of this, they call it like left-hand path because it's like just sort of rejecting what society expects and just sort of doing your own thing.
Okay.
And so the 60s, that was such an attitude at that time. So it is easy to see how this age of Satan kind of spread or whatever throughout the 60s. And then you've got to think about Charles Manson and the Manson family also had this kind of part in churning out that Satanic Panic because they were definitely part of a counterculture movement. They go kill Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, all of these people.
Wrote all that stuff.
Marie. Yeah. And so, a lot of people thought automatically like they must be devil worshippers. Plus they kind of were involved in, like the Manson family cult. They had Spawn Ranch, all that.
Right. Because that's what people think people in the Church of Satan do. Go murder 10 people and put blood everywhere.
Yeah.
But they're probably just figuring out math problems and coming up with a political stance.
That's the hysteria behind it.
Right.
But then I started looking into some of the other stories and true crime cases that kind of went hand in hand with the Satanic Panic.
Ooh, what'd you find with that?
Well, I found a couple good ones, but this one definitely I remember and have seen a lot of like true crime shows about, a lot of discussion, because from here we're going to get into talking about some of the music of this time.
Okay.
In the 80s, the 90s that kind of drove this hysteria as well. But it was the summer of 1984. There was a 17-year-old drug dealer and, of course, self-professed Satanist Ricky Queso who murdered his friend Gary Lowers in the woods in Newport, New York. He was high on mescaline. See, I don't know much about drugs, so I can't even pronounce that. According to the coroner's report, this guy Queso had stabbed his friend 36 times. He had sliced out his eyeballs, which of course led to this huge media coverage that this murder was like real, ritualistic in nature.
Right.
Again, satanic ritual abuse. Jimmy Troiano and Albert Quinones, who were friends of these two, were also present at the crime and said that before this guy Lowers had his life taken, that the guy Queso commanded he say, "You love Satan." And the guy's like, "I love my mother." And then that's when he was killed because he wouldn't profess his love.
Oh my God.
Dedication to Satan. But then weeks after the murder, Queso was going to take all of these teenagers into the woods. He shows them the body. He brags. He tells people that he killed Lowers because Satan told him to. The Dark Lord hath commanded. He believed that the devil had manifested in the form of a black crow and that its crow coincided with Queso asking if he should take Lowers' life, and that when the crow would be like, "Crow, he interpreted that as Satan's approval. Do you like my sound effects?
Yeah, I don't want you to stop.
Well, just so you know, I did start college. I was a theater major.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played a groundhog in my school's second grade play. Not to brag or anything, but do you know who I am?
Do you know the little Lady Wellington?
So for months afterwards, the media presented Queso as a Satanist who was part of a cult, further fueling this hysteria that was already taking root. Because you had the book that you're talking about, The Satanic Cellar. You had Michelle Remembers. You know, all this shit is kind of coming out. So this just exploded. And the Knights of the Black Circle was supposedly the name of this sect, this satanic sect that he had been part of.
Yep.
Although there was absolutely no evidence behind that at all. It was just like some weird nickname that got passed around that people bought into.
Right.
There was even a press release following all of this by the Suffolk County Police that claimed that Queso regularly took part in these rituals honoring the devil, that he was this devil worshiper, and this was backed up by his own father, who claimed that his son was obsessed with reading about witchcraft and wearing apparel featuring satanic symbols. Sorry, guys, we had a 12-year-old interrupt. He was coming in here to show us his devil-worshipping artwork that he had drawn out. Just kidding.
A lot of red. Yeah, use the red up.
He does like to wear black. Should I be concerned?
No, I just let him wear black. That's what he wants to do.
So this kid was like obsessed with wearing these, t-shirts with satanic symbols, reading about witchcraft. I'm like, doesn't sound that unusual to me, but okay. And on the day that Queso was arrested, he was, of course, wearing an AC/DC t-shirt.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So this led to the inevitable association between heavy metal and his atrocities. Murder, satanic ritual abuse, all this. And then, of course, all these parents start looking for a scapegoat. And that's where the music comes in.
Ah, yes.
But this Queso kid, after he was arrested, killed himself 48 hours later. So, he ended up committing suicide. But he was a huge heavy metal fan. So again, got parents, religious figures looking for a scapegoat. This kid loved Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest, so it didn't take long for that association to be made. But it wasn't only the atrocity, this murder, that would be linked to heavy metal music and all these artists making it. It was in 1988 that Geraldo Rivera, such a great daytime TV piece of shit.
Yeah, I'll never forget when the Klan started throwing chairs on his show.
Or when he tried to dig up, was it like Al Capone's tomb or vault?
And there was nothing
like
in
nothing in it. There wasn't even like a, an empty Coke can. I mean, it was just empty. It was pretty sad.
They spent like millions promoting that too.
Right.
Like they just knew it was going to be something.
So Geraldo Rivera had this documentary called Devil Worship, exposing Satan's underground. Dun, 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 dun.
It's a good name for a punk band.
Yeah, well, it aired, and it depicted, of course, metalheads.
Any teenager with long hair, probably.
Yeah, pretty much. Drinking blood, grave robbing, sacrilegious, kids running around being hooligans. It discussed a bunch of murders involving young people linked to devil worship. One of the most famous of all of these was Thomas Sullivan. He was a 14-year-old who had stabbed his mother to death. And it just so happened that he was a huge fan of none other than Black Sabbath. Yeah. Yeah,
so, they're good at this. When society starts, societal ills start bubbling to the top, they are good at this. They've done it over and over. They've done it with rap, rock.
Oh, yeah.
Everything.
Elvis it started was with the music of the devil. Jerry Lee Lewis was channeling demons with his piano.
They're good at blaming the music instead of looking at any kind of real problems that might be causing some of this.
Even had Ozzy Osbourne appear as a guest, but when he was asked about the connection between, heavy metal music and these crimes, they basically like just cut him off before he was even allowed to answer and give any kind of
so he just wanted to show
substantial defense.